So Aaronra and Jesse Lee Peterson sat down and had a talk about whatever, I guess. And it was kind of short. And first of all, I want to shout out to Aaronra because Aaronra, over the years, and it's only been a few that I have seen him, debate with people. He's starting to settle down a little bit. But you can tell when he doesn't even believe himself when he says why God does not exist. When he says that God does not exist, look at the look on his face. It is always a smirk. And somebody else, it was, what is his name? Mike Winger. He listened to Aaronra and he began to talk about how Aaronra and many atheists always use it wasn't Aaronra, it was Jarvis. Ricky Jarvis, I think it's Ricky Jarvis. I think it is. He was listening to Ricky Jarvis talk about how, why there can be a God and why you don't have time for God or you don't want to get into religion or whatever. I think that, first of all, I think that hating the church and believing in God, or hating the church and denying God, are the same thing. Even though you think that you're sealing the deal, you're shutting all debates off or all arguments off or all, atrocities or whatever. You're shutting it all off by saying there simply is no God, like Aaronra does, like Matt Dillahunty does. There just simply is no possible way that there can be a God. And everything about God that we believe about God that leads us to believe that there is a God has no fact, has no bearing, it doesn't hold water. Really. And then when Aaronra was asked by Jesse Lee Peterson, how do you figure we come from apes? Aaronra would give a evolutional answer like a child would give an evolutional answer. I thought that Aaronra, out of all people, would explain how we possibly come from apes. Now, this is the thing. I know that apes, that if you know how to practice your biology and you know how to, tame animals, if you're into that kind of business and into that kind of activity, if that is your career, if you know how to do that, you can have an ape living in your house or living right outside your house, walking around your home with you, your property with you, like a typical dog, and you don't have to worry about it. They're not only doing it with apes, they're doing it with lions and tigers, okay? And this is real stuff, okay? However, if I get sick and I go to the hospital, I've said this many times again. First of all, when an ape sees another ape, he feels safe. and he feels like he's at home. And he feels like that ape hasn't crossed his territory or stepped outside his own bounds. Okay? They might fight over stuff, but it isn't territory. It isn't the woods or the jungle. Okay? But when an ape sees a human, when a tiger sees a human, their motive is to attack, whether it's attack out of fear. So, to me, it's proof that we're not from animals. If we were from animals, there would, animals sniff us. They smell, they use their senses and their eyes, their nose, their eyes, their ears. And that tells them what you are and what you're not. And in order for you to be anything else, you have to tame them. You have to tame the animal. And the animal never tames you. You tame the animal. But if we evolved from apes, okay, they say the giants still live. Now, giants are a form of human that doesn't live anymore. Their race died off. But if you see a giant up in the jungle, and people have, like, I saw a video this week where these Indian guys, somewhere in Saudi Arabia or somewhere out there in the east, there's this mountain. And there's giants living in these mountains. These are like the last of the giants in the Bible. These are the children, the last of the children of their offspring. They're living in this mountain complex, okay? These guys, no weapons, nothing but being able to speak different languages, climbed that mountain and got up there and found these giants. These giants are taller than apes. And they're about just as strong as apes. Okay? And they're going to be kind of animalistic because they have not been raised outside of the jungle. Okay? They're everything is primal and tribal. Okay? So when you run into these individuals, how do they respond to you? How do they respond? Do they look at you like the ape looks at you and starts running towards you? Or do they look at you like the tiger sees you and starts running towards you, trying to get you to back up, and it's not good enough for you to back up? They have to attack you, because no matter where you go, they saw you, so they need to attack you. Okay? But when they met these giants did not attack them. And these giants spoke to them in their language, which they did not understand. But they understood that they needed to leave. And so they took pictures and they left. Okay? When a black man who gets treated like an animal a lot of times walks into a very racist neighborhood where white people think black people are animals, okay? It's funny how they let you know that they don't want you around. They speak to you in English. Because why? They know that you, as an American, know English. But yet they feel that you're outside your turf and on their turf. They want to talk about you and talk to you like you're an animal, but yet they did it in English. Okay? My point is, everything about humans and animals and how we relate to one another as humans, men and women, animals, male and female, and everything, tells us that evolution is a fraud. Because how come if my greatest ancestor is an ape, How come I'm not able to get a liver transplant from an ape, a heart transplant from an ape? How come I'm not able to get a blood transfusion from an ape? I say this all the time. If we had anything in common, you would be able. Now, they keep saying, and they've been saying this forever, oh, well, you can look at the body of an ape and you can see the spine and you can see this and the shape of the head and all this to represent that it's connected to humans. Okay, but again, those giants up in the mountains, I can give them my blood for them to survive. They can give me theirs to survive because they were once us, or we were once them, however you want to put it. They're prehistoric and they're still alive, but they're human. We would be more related to them than we would be related to the apes. Okay? Why do we have to lie and get rid of God? God loves us. And the most primal thing that we can do is return to God. The most evolutional thing that we can do in support of evolution per se, is return to God that created us. Why do people hate the idea of God's existence? Why do people always want to claim that animals are smarter than us and the air is magnificent and the sun, the moon, the stars? Oh, it's so magnificent. Just look at it. The earth is beautiful. Everything's beautiful except the God that created it all. I don't get that. Like, you say all this stuff is beautiful, and you say there's so much to learn. But there's so much to learn about the God who created it too. But we don't go there. We're taught to hate God. And you know what I think? I think that if there were never any Christians, there would never be any atheists either. And I've heard atheists say the same thing. You just busted yourself. If you said that, if there were no Christians, there would be no atheists, you just busted yourself. Because if no God exists, then that means no God exists even if you don't talk about it. God still does not exist. But the reason why there are atheists, because a guy like me is crazy enough to say, and I give all the glory and praise and honor to God. Because somebody like me is willing to say, what does God think about this? What would God do? What would Jesus do? That, my friend, makes people mad, makes people pissed off. Because I said, what would Jesus do? What would God do? What does God think about this? Why? And just like you say that animals are naturally gay. Huh? Okay. You want animals to naturally be gay for you. So it's not that God is bad, and it's not that God's people are bad. You're bad because you want to make the world bow down to you instead of the world bow down to God. And you're willing to say that animals are smarter than you and are smarter than everybody else, and they're the kings. They're the king of the jungle, and they're where we evolved from and all this, but yet at the same time, you're not letting them take charge either, because then we would just be meat in the jungle for them to eat, okay? or just corpse that they killed. Because we didn't tame them properly, we let them take charge. And when you tame something, it's no longer in charge of its habitat. You are. So, another short one, but it's just crazy to me how we have a problem with this. And I tell people all the time, like this week, you know what I mean? I got the same kind of Christian persecution in real time for a change that I get off of YouTube. I mean, people really came after me this week in a very, very ignorant way. And it got so bad that I had to actually put my foot down and accuse some people and bring in the law, drop the law on them. Like, regardless of what you think about God, I'm human. I don't need to be a Christian, an atheist, or anything to get respect. I can just be a dude. So in that regard, watch yourself. And I had to sit down with somebody in authority and say, these people are disrespecting me. And today, I walked in my office and there was the sign right there. I used their own law against them. See, their law works for them if I talk about God too much, but it doesn't work for me if I don't talk about God and they're talking about God. It's okay for them to talk about God because they're not Christians, but it's wrong for me to talk about God because I'm a Christian. What? I squashed that this week. I squashed that. Squash that. Now, again, I can never understand why it's so hard for people. And it's always been simple to me. Everything, every church, every denomination, every religion, my own backsliding and coming back and backsliding and coming back, leaving the church and coming back. My anger towards God, my anger towards non-Christians, the persecution even. The persecution kills me because it's so out of touch and so out of place. But I understand that people of the world are like wild animals compared to us. And they mark their territory because they don't know the Lord, so they mark their territory. And like a wild animal, until Jesus tames you, you're not going to understand. All you want to do is bite and attack, because how can God be okay and this be okay too? You're right. They're not both okay. One's got to be wrong. But why's it got to be God that created it all? Why's he got to be wrong? Okay? But just like a wild animal, you want to attack and devour. Why? Because your enemy, your father, the devil, which is also your enemy, he wants to attack and devour. You're like your father. That's the Bible. And you're untamed. See, when I came to know the Lord, he tamed me. He made me his friend. And now I adore him. He's my master. I'm a puppy in his arms because he saved me and rescued me and also tamed me. And now I'm like the little dog that don't understand why all the other dogs hates this human. or hates this superhuman, or hates this man that created humans. See what I'm saying? God bless you. I am DeRoy Cruz, your Life Applications Officer. Thank you for watching. And we will talk more about this in another one. See you soon.